Hello everyone, I would like to thank you for watching this video. In it, I would like to get into some things that I've been looking at, some of my observations about the symbolism or the significance of September. I have some things from an older video I made. It was about the connection between the God of Islam, which is called Allah, and the goddess Isis. And I I won't get into everything that I showed from that video, and this is an older video, so some of the research does need to be brought up to date, but there was still some good stuff in there, in my opinion, and I'll show you some of that as it pertains to the month of September. Now, one of the things that I'll just get into right off the bat is just that the the reason September is apparently so powerful or so important, not just in the what should we call these, the to the powers that be or the Illuminati or the Freemasons or whatever other group out there is operating and performing rituals during this time, the witches, so on, the pagans. The reason is that the the sun, I believe it's due to the equinox, it is being placed in the constellation of Virgo. And so what that means is that the constellation of Virgo is the constellation that announces the harvest. And also, if you are familiar with the image of the goddess and her son, well, there you have the constellation Virgo and the sun being together. Um, yeah, her son S-O-N, her son S-U-N. They are the same thing. So you have this birthing of the sun that's going to happen, and you also have the harvest being announced, and you also have the not the constellation, but the star Jupiter, which is the king planet. That is the star that was associated with Marduk and Jupiter. I mean Zeus. I already said Jupiter, but Zeus and what other name? Um, Mostly the king god, so called, right? And it was the constellation of Virgo. It was the goddess who birthed the king. And what else? Also, you have the constellation of Leo, which is the lion, which is royalty, represents royalty, and that was adorning her head, and so therefore she was the queen of heaven. And I believe you're also going to have Venus and the moon, which are also which are feminine objects as well. Venus being the morning and evening star, also called Lucifer, and the moon, and of course those in conjunction can be the crescent and star, crescent moon and star, Venus and the moon. But some you can also look at the crescent and star as being the moon and the sun. In that context, the moon and the sun is the sun inside the womb of the goddess. But I'm getting off course here. Let me just move on. For those of you who are watching this video or one of my videos for the first time, I have the tendency to go off and ramble and this and that, and I'm not dealing with a script right now, so I may have a lot of wandering. And anyway, moving forward with some of the other things that I wanted to share. So I have some video clips. I'll show you some of the things that I've noticed at the Vatican, and I showed this video that you're looking at now maybe a week ago, but not all of it. But I want to show it again for those of you on this channel who don't visit my other channel, Daylight Riders. And in this, the Pope is going to talk about the September month of, what is it called? Care for Creation. And these are Earth or Gaia worshiping people here. And they, people don't recognize it because they're not being taught, right? We've been taught to look for certain things in regards to the adversary, and we haven't been taught to look for the so-called divine feminine or the goddess. So let's just listen to some of this.
At his general audience, Pope Francis recalled that September 1st is World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation, a day he established in 2015 to coincide with the Orthodox Church's special day of prayer for the planet.
Oggi celebriamo la giornata mondiale di preghiera per la cura del creato e l'inizio del tempo del creato, che si concluderà il 4 ottobre, festa di San Francesco di Assisi. Quest'anno il tema è Una casa per tutti.
So this is the time for creation. Remember what Paul said, they worship and serve the creation more than the Creator who is blessed forever. By the creation, of course, they are talking about the earth. They're talking about Gaia. This is Gaia's month. And also July, I think, as well, because of the Sirius. Is that when Sirius, something happens with Sirius, and they call it the dog days of summer. Sirius is the dog star, and and it's associated with Isis and Venus. But anyway, getting off track again. So another thing that you might notice here is that he says that this year's theme is a home for all and renewing God's oikos, or dwelling place. Now, God's dwelling place is in us, in His children, those who are saved and have the Holy Spirit indwelling them. That is God's new temple, and it is a temple not built with hands. But the Pope is saying that the earth is God's dwelling place. And that just goes back to, again, the pantheism, where God is in creation. And if God is in creation, then creation is God. And so, and also you can look at Kabbalah as well. They have, I'm not even going to get into all of that, but I keep going off. All right, try to stay focused. Okay, let's see if there's anything else in here really quick before we move on to the next thing.
The Pope announced that he has prepared a message with Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew and the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, on the current climate situation.
Con il patriarca ecumenico Bartolomeo e l'arcivescovo di Canterbury, Justin Welby, abbiamo preparato un messaggio che uscirà nei prossimi giorni.
Okay, yeah, they did mention, he mentioned that they were going to prepare a message for the coming days, and of course they're linking us to the so-called climate change thing, which is a bunch of junk. It's, again, trying to get you to look toward the earth, basically. Look toward creation. And let's see here. I'm going to show you the message that he had in a second. Now, continuing on with this video, first though, he still wants to bring the different Christian faiths together. He wants to bring them all back under the mother church again, and I have some really fascinating things to show you about the actual layout of the Vatican. How to be born again the pagan way. Well, if you're a Roman Catholic, you enter in at the keyhole, which is where you can find the phallus of the sun god being inserted, and you are the seed going up through the birth canal toward the Holy of Holies, the dome, which is universally understood as the representation of the womb. And so you have on one end, you have the womb. On the other end, you have the entrance where a phallic object is being placed. you get the picture of what this church layout is supposed to be. It is the body of a woman. And so you go into the womb where you receive the sacraments, the baptism and everything else, and the water of the womb. And when you leave, you go out through the keyhole again, and you are born again. Now I have some notes here. You can find more information about this in my video on the Black Madonna and also on Mother Nature, and I will put a link to that video in the description. Now, the personification of the Mother Goddess was the largest iron meteorite of the ancient world. The same type of meteorite was worshipped as the embodiment of the goddess, or even as the throne of the goddess in various places, such as in Ephesus, where the Ephesians said, "Great is Diana of the Ephesians," and they worshiped the image which fell down from heaven. Anyway, continuing to read here. A massive conical object over 16 feet in height, worshipped as the simulacrum of Cybele and weighing several hundred tons. So important was the new goddess to Rome, the Senate commissioned two senators, M.L. Salinator and I'm pretty sure these are Roman numerals. I don't know those, but anyway, it's Salinator and Nero to plan, design, and construction an edifice. I'm not sure if that's worded correctly, but an edifice worthy of housing the Black Stone, the goddess Cybele, known as Magna Mater or Great Mother. She's also called the Mountain Mother to Romans. A grand temple over 200 feet long was planned. On April 11, 191 BC, Praetor Marcus Annius Brutus inaugurated and dedicated the temple to Cybele on Vatican Hill. On this date, the Magna Mater, or Great Mother, was enthroned as the sacred protectress of the city by carrying a much smaller conical meteorite in a procession to a second temple to Cybele. Now, from this website, this is where I learned that Vatica, it was the Etruscan goddess of the underworld who guarded the city of the dead on Vatican Hill in ancient Rome. The area, which is now St. Peter's Basilica, thus became known as the Vatican. It was named after a goddess. Her name was Vatica. And from this site we have the word Vatica comes from the Etruscan goddess who guarded the necropolis on Vatican Hill. The word Vatica subsequently became Latin for prophecy, referring to female oracles or Vaticinia. You will also notice about St. Peter's Basilica that the origin of basilica is from the Greek or basilisk or basilike, which is a royal serpent, and basilica is the feminine form of royal serpent. So St. Peter's Basilica is the feminine form of royal serpent, and it is named after the goddess of the underworld, Vatica. Or the Vatican is named after the Roman goddess of the underworld, Vatica. As a final quick note before I get back to the original video that I had planned, the name of the region of Turkey was pronounced Phrygia. Now, Phrygia has a goddess, or Phrygia is the name of the Norse goddess Freya, and I would not be surprised if Freya or Phrygia actually came from the name of the region that is now called Turkey, but which was called Phrygia then. And that goddess, as you can see, is the very same as Cybele. She is sitting enthroned, and she is being worshipped in Rome, as well as the place where the East meets the West, and in Constantinople, which is now called Istanbul. And I plan to do more videos on this region of Constantinople or Istanbul because I believe it's very important to Bible prophecy. And this is what I believe the place where Rome or Catholicism and Islam joins together. So you have at this place, Phrygia, that God is sort of spreading throughout the world. And we pray for our work, and I'm reading here, we pray for our common home in these times of grave planetary crisis. Again, that is just a scam they are pulling to get us to go along with their earth worship.
Which the Orthodox, Anglican, and Catholic churches pray together for the protection of the planet. It will conclude on October 4th, the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi.
Now, in this next video, this is where I guess they want to encourage us to have an environmentally sustainable lifestyle. Again, it's like a religion. It is a religion. It's not like a religion. It is a religion that these people are part of. And you can see the woman in scarlet behind him. Mary, the so-called Mary. It's not the real Mary. And FYI, Mary's name means rebellion and bitter seed. That's something else, just for you to keep in mind. Okay, let's play this.
Me alegra mucho ver que los jóvenes tienen valor de emprender proyectos de mejora ambiental y mejora social, puesto que ambas van juntos. Los adultos podemos aprender mucho de los jóvenes, pues en todo lo que tiene que ver con el cuidado del planeta, los jóvenes están a la vanguardia. Aprovechemos su ejemplo, reflexionemos, especialmente en estos momentos de crisis sanitaria, de crisis social, de crisis ambiental. Reflexionemos sobre nuestro estilo de vida, sobre cómo la forma de alimentarnos, de consumir, de desplazarnos, o el uso que hacemos del agua, de la energía y de los plásticos, y de tantos bienes materiales son a menudo perjudiciales para la tierra. Elijamos cambiar. Avancemos con los jóvenes hacia estilos de vida más sencillos y respetuosos del medio ambiente. Y recemos para que todos tomemos las decisiones valientes, las decisiones necesarias para una vida más sobria y ecosostenible, inspirándonos por los jóvenes.
So yeah, there's a form of eco-fascism coming. People are going to, I don't know what kind of conditions they're going to have people living in, but I imagine they're going to be stacked tight, packed in, given very little, given the minimum to live off of, the minimum to operate with, all for the sake of the planet, right? As it says on the Georgia Guidestones, leave room for nature, be not a cancer on the earth, leave room for nature, and keep humanity maintained under 500 million, was it 500 billion? No, 500 million, not billion, 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. So again, they're going to reduce the population and have the people who are alive live on the bare minimum for the sake of their mother goddess.
Ya que están comprometidos con este cambio, y no son tontos, porque están comprometidos con el futuro de ellos. Por eso quieren cambiar lo que ellos van a heredar, en un tiempo en que ya nosotros no estaremos.
All right, now this one says, the Pope and other Christian leaders, this is what their message for us. Okay, so make sacrifices. They don't want you to have much to live with.
Archbishop of Canterbury Justin Welby, Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew, and Pope Francis for the first time released a joint declaration calling for the protection of creation. The statement calls on every person to listen to the cry of the earth and of people who are poor. It says we can all play a part in changing our collective response to the unprecedented threat of climate change and environmental degradation. Pope Francis mentioned this joint message in early September, at the beginning of the season of creation, which for many Christians is an opportunity to pray and care for God's creation.
insieme con I fratelli e le sorelle di diverse confessioni cristiane, preghiamo e operiamo per la nostra casa comune in questi tempi di grave crisi planetaria.
The leaders of the Anglican Communion, the Orthodox Church, and the Roman Catholic Church invite people to pray for world leaders preparing to address climate issues at the upcoming COP26 in Glasgow. The statement urges individuals to make responsible choices and meaningful sacrifices to counteract the consequences of having greedily consumed more of the Earth's resources than the planet can endure.
Now, that goes very well with what I show in this video about the AI goddess Gaia, the image of the beast. And if you all, it's a long video, 1 hour and 24 minutes, but I believe it's worth it. And so I ask you all to watch that video if you haven't, and you can get a good idea of what they have in mind to do using AI. And yeah, so it's going to be a world where they want us worshiping Gaia. She may be going by another name, but it's going to be that goddess.
After his general audience, Pope Francis blessed a peculiar item presented to him from the crowd, a golden rose. The rose is a gift to Our Lady of Skalmyjice in Poland, an image which dates back to the 15th century.
It is almost 600 years old, and just now it is the 55 years as the paint was coronated by the Primus of Poland, Cardinal Wyszyński.
In 1966, Cardinal Stefan Wyszyński crowned the image of Our Lady with crowns that were blessed by Pope Paul VI. Now the image will be accompanied by a golden rose blessed by Pope Francis.
Priests.
Now, why is this important? Number one, it's idolatrous. Number two, the rose is a symbol of Venus, and so is the apple. By the way, the apple is a symbol of Venus, and Venus is Lucifer. And so you have the forbidden knowledge, forbidden wisdom, the false light, all being symbolized by the rose and the apple. And the apple is because it's associated with a story in mythology about the garden, a garden associated with Venus. I think it was called the Hesperides, or something like that. I get the name lit. I show it in whatever. I showed it in another video, and I'll probably show it again one day eventually. But anyway, so you have these symbols of Venus, or the goddess, and it's idolatrous. And number three, it reminds me of the verse in Daniel where it speaks about the God of forces, and that is also something that I bring up in this video as well. Oh, here we go. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things.
In 1966, Cardinal Stefan Wyszyński crowned the image of Our Lady with crowns that were blessed by Pope Paul VI. Now the image will be accompanied by a golden rose blessed by Pope Francis.
Now, the God of forces is the mother goddess, because forces means a fortified place, a fortress, a stronghold, or a city, and that would be the goddess. Now, where did sorry, it's hard to find these. I mean, it's hard to scroll through this. Oh yeah, it's the goddess who wore the walls, or she wore the city on her head. But one of the things that Alexander Hislop did get right in his book, The Two Babylons, is identifying who the god of horses was, and that is the goddess going by many names. But for some of his other research, I disagree on, especially with the so-called Semiramis, who he tried to, if she existed at all, she didn't even exist in the same time period as Nimrod. So he basically tried to reverse engineer mythology, and he plucked a figure out of history, put her back in Nimrod's time, and said, boom, she was his wife, and nobody asked any questions about it. That's what happened. So, but that wasn't true. Semiramis was never his wife. That's why she wasn't mentioned in the Bible. If she existed, she didn't even live in the same time period. Now that you can actually fact check that. Now, okay, some things that I put into an older video that I want to show you, and it is related to the month of September. Some of the things that happened, some of the things that went on, rituals and such, during the month of September in the ancient times, and probably still go on in secret. But in a place called Eleusis, I believe it's called Eleusis, in Greece, you had what was called the Eleusinian Mysteries, or the Mysteries of Demeter. And Demeter was, of course, a goddess of agriculture, an earth mother, basically. And so, as I put here, and this came from esotericonline.net, the Eleusinian Mysteries, Mystery of Demeter, were the initiation ceremonies held annually in honor of Demeter, the mother goddess of agriculture and fertility, and Persephone, her daughter, the maiden queen of the underworld. These were the most sacred and revered of all ritual celebrations of ancient Greece. Now, next, from this book called America, Nation of the Goddess, the Venus Families, and the Founding of the United States, I put here, this is, again, the text looks different than what you usually see because this is an older video that I made. So, as for the Eleusinian Mysteries, as a Masonic institution, little is known about it. According to the information of the Duke of Ascoli offered to Francis McDowell, it had come from southern Italy, where the town of Ascoli is situated. Or Ascoli, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but well, it was from ancient Greece first, and then it migrated. In the ancient world, the Eleusinian Mysteries were extremely well known. They took place annually in the smallest settlement of Eleusis, not far from Athens in Greece. Yeah, there it was. And were dedicated to the extremely popular goddess Demeter, who had a special significance in terms of vegetation, and who was also closely associated with death and rebirth, as most of these goddesses are, because they birth the dying and resurrecting sun god. So that is the whole point of the mystery religions. The sun god dies and resurrects, and it's up to the goddess to resurrect them. Both men and women could be initiated into the mysteries of Demeter. Even slaves were not precluded. For more than 1,500 years, the rites were practiced, with sometimes thousands of people taking the route from Athens to Eleusis in the third week of September. For example, although September 17 was the most significant date in the yearly celebrations of the mysteries of Demeter and Eleusis, it was also self-evidently the day on which the American Constitution was signed. They picked dates for their things for a reason. We have seen how closely associated were the beliefs of those who fought for and founded the United States with ancient myths related to the Earth Goddess. And I guess Constitution Week is September 17th through the 23rd. You think that was chosen arbitrarily? No, they had something to do with the Earth Goddess. And her association with the annually born and dying god of the harvest, the story of the goddess and her son or consort is to be found in many forms and across thousands of years. and I have other books that will go more into detail about the dying and resurrecting God, and how the goddess was the originally worshipped as the supreme being, and as time went on, she eventually gained a male son and husband and whatever. In all the ancient mystery religions, the god is constantly born and dies, while the goddess is eternal. Because nature itself was synonymous with the goddess of the mystery rites, the goddess herself was seen as being eternal, whereas her consort, who was also her son and was represented by the barley, died and was reborn each year. So I guess while I'm showing you this image, I could explain the importance of this obelisk. Okay, the obelisk, of course, is the male phallus, right, penetrating into the earth. The Vesica Piscis, or some people say Pisces, but I think it's called Piscis, is a goddess symbol, like the MasterCard. That is not, as some people say, is the two seeds coming into touching each other, or whatever. No, it is a symbol of the goddess. It's an ancient symbol of the goddess, and the phallus is penetrating it, right? Penetrating the Earth Mother, and that phallus belongs to her son / husband, because she marries him, he dies, she gives birth to him again, and rinse and repeat. The Statue of Freedom is the largest of the many goddess statues strategically placed around Washington, D.C. On the autumn equinox in September, she stares into the rising sun as it is stationed at the end of the zodiac sign of Virgo. Now the first line is from History.com. September 18, 1793, the cornerstone of the U.S. Capitol was laid. Capitol building was laid. Now from City of the Goddess, Freemasons, the Sacred Feminine, and the Secret Beneath the Seat of Power in Washington, D.C. on page 13. On that very Wednesday, the day most associated with the sign of Virgo, at 3:30 a.m., a near full moon was about to set, leaving Venus in the sky in the east for 2 hours as the brightest object in the sky, all while the sun was firmly positioned in the sign of Virgo.
But September 11 is massively important. It's the sun rising in Virgo, isn't it? And of course, Washington D.C. has got Maryland on one side and Virginia on the other.
That's right. And Pentagon is right, almost smack in the center of that square, by the way, as well.
Yeah, but that female thing, which is at the root of Freemasonry, much to the alarm of many Freemasons, the whole thing is about goddess worship equally with God worship. It's about the polarity of gender in the Godhead. And particularly, it seems, in founding Washington, D.C., they were the Virgin Mary and Maryland. They were acting everything out to make it the most perfect place possible. I mean, even the sort of diamond shape has got female connotations.
So they got all her little feminine symbols, the moon about to set and Venus in the sky. You know, they got to have their little goddess symbols, and then the sun, of course, is positioned in Virgo. Okay, so that should shine some light on exactly how important September is for the powers that be. I just refer to that because I just don't see a point in trying to apply one name, like such as the Freemasons, such as the Illuminati, and all these different terms, when a lot of these get misused and you apply it to the wrong people, and their meanings get lost, and everything just gets really muddy. So I just typically just call them the powers that be, I can call them the mystery of iniquity as well, but I do believe that the mystery of iniquity specifically speaks about Satan, or the mystery, Babylon, and iniquity, wickedness, that lady who was in the basket, wickedness, and Zechariah. Getting off track again. Sorry about that. So that should do it. Thanks for watching this video, and please, if you can, watch the video on AI, and where I believe we're hit it. So sorry if you heard my son in the background there. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and may our Lord Jesus Christ bless you.